All right, so we're talking about planning, and I believe that no discussion of planning in a management course like this can afford to omit some of the emerging technologies and methodologies for conducting project management. And the newest form of this is coming from technology, particularly computer programming. Computer programmers are notoriously known, they're notoriously known, they're commonly known for always receiving sort of the short end of the stick, and that people who aren't computer programmers give them a task, they go and do it to whatever level of quality, and then they come back and say, can you change this? And what the non-programmers don't understand is that we can change it, but we'll have to undo a whole bunch of things. In fact, like really outside of technology, in all cases, to undo something or change a factor often requires that we go trace back, how does that item touch everything else? What other things might it affect? We built it, with this size component. If we want to change and reduce the size of this component, what effect does that have? Whether you're building a PC or you're putting a countertop in your home, changes often have lots of implications to them. And those are costly. It takes time to do the rework, the replanning, and it takes time to retrofit and make sure that it didn't mess anything else up. So the terminology that's used is Agile, and a specific form of Agile technologies is called Scrum. Maybe I'll just refer to Agile here because it's the more generic term. Agile technologies is really a term used to describe a process of engaging in completing a project and planning for a project kind of simultaneously. Prior to Agile technologies, the prevailing methodology was called waterfall. Now, I guess waterfall is named that because you do all this planning like a river, big amounts of planning. Maybe you spend 6, 9, 12 months planning a very extensive, detailed project. And then on one particular day, you, quote, go live. And when you go live, the programmers begin to actually do the work to complete this big binder worth of specifications for the project. And boom, waterfall begins. And the programmers start to work on their code and develop this, and they work for maybe a year on it. And they have goals, 6-month, 9-month, 12-month goals, something like that. The problem with that process is there's often a lot of things that aren't thought up in the process, in the planning process. And so when, from the period of go live for that next year when they're working on it, they have questions, they have to go back and revisit the plan. And when the people who are building the plan, the product owners, don't always understand the implications for what they're asking to be changed. It's a lot like this in technology and in project management in general. If you're building a house and you have the plans and you've made some modifications and the contractor's out at the site building it, and if you come at the wrong time, if you come right after they put the sheetrock in everywhere and you say, oh gosh, how about we put canned lighting in the kitchen? I know that the plans specify a drop-down lighting with a power outlet here and one over here, but how about we just put canned lighting all the way around? The contractor is going to have to tell you, we can do that, but we're going to have to take that sheetrock out. We're going to have to run an electrical line from the outlet that's there all the way around, drilling through the studs in order to have a circuit available to connect that canned lighting. And we can do that, but we already spent the time and we already spent the money putting up the drywalls. We'll have to now take it down, put the canned lighting in, and then install the sheetrock again. So it's going to be more expensive. And the owner's often frustrated by that. Why are you charging me extra for these simple changes, just as a simple change? Now, it's a simple change if you don't have to do it. But if you're the contractor, I have to rip out the sheetrock to get to the studs, to drill holes, to put the electric lines in there. And the same thing with project management. Oftentimes, the owners of the project don't really understand what it takes to build it. They don't understand what things are dependent on another. Like the homeowner doesn't know, well, you can't drill holes in the studs without putting holes in the sheetrock, and then we'll have to replace it or patch it or do something, and that's going to take time and money and resources. So Agile Technologies recognizes that, and it's an attempt to do simultaneous planning and implementation. So the advantage of that is not only can the owner make changes as the project develops, but they can see the project early on. You take a chunk of the project, just a small piece of the project, you give it to the developers, like a web page interface or something, or some part of the program for accounts payable, and you give it to them and you say, this is what you asked for, tell us if you like it. If they don't like it, or if they want to make improvements to it, or if they want to delete from it, it's easy enough to do because you haven't built anything onto it yet. Once they're satisfied with that, you build the second module, and then you bring it to the product owner and say, here are the two modules, and here's how they work together, and anything that you want to do. Well, it gives the product owner the opportunity to, like if you were a homeowner, it gives you the opportunity to walk through the house with what is in place, to actually get the look and feel of it and say, gosh, I thought I wanted a wall here, but now that I look at it, is it possible to take that wall out? Well, it's usually possible to take a wall out if you come early enough in the construction process. But if you wait too long, things are built up around it. Then you end up with a lot more complexity. So in the decision-making process, in the planning process that we're talking about here, think about flexible ways in which you can plan incrementally, not just one big plan up front. It often feels good to have a really comprehensive and thorough plan book ahead of time. But the reality is, just like a sports team or something, they have a set of plays that they intend to initiate against a particular competitor before the game. But the thing is, as the game unfolds, they have to determine which plays are being more effective. Is the quarterback throwing well? And then maybe they should alter the playbook a little bit or call different plays as they go. And that's the way we'll get the team will perform the best. And that's the way that an organization's planning process will be most flexible. So waterfall's kind of old. We do want big comprehensive plans where things are very costly and important. We want to do our work ahead of time. But we also want to keep in mind that things change as we're building products or building services or engaged in whatever form of commerce that we're engaged in. And we need to be flexible. And Agile is a good technology or methodology to follow. And I think it's going to be catching on, not just in technology, but in all forms of project management in the future. So good to bring that to mind and have a little exposure to that before you take the reins and lead the way as managers of tomorrow.